The ocean was black. Not dark. Black. The kind of darkness that erased the horizon and swallowed ships whole. Somewhere beneath the waters of the Pacific Ocean, Japanese submarines hunted American convoys during World War II. Cargo ships vanished overnight. Sailors disappeared beneath burning waves. Fear spread through the Pacific because the enemy could strike from anywhere below the surface. Then came one American destroyer. Fast, aggressive, and built for anti-submarine warfare, the ship became a nightmare for Japanese submarine crews. It was not massive like a battleship, but it carried experienced sailors who understood one brutal truth. If they waited for submarines to attack first, they would die. So they hunted instead. Night after night, the destroyer moved through dangerous waters while sonar crews listened carefully beneath the ocean. Exhaustion consumed the sailors. Coffee replaced sleep. Every strange sound mattered. Every shadow felt dangerous. One torpedo could split the ship apart instantly. Then one night, sonar detected something. A submarine contact. Faint at first, but real. The captain reacted immediately. Engines increased power as the destroyer turned sharply across black water. Sailors rushed toward depth-charge launchers mounted at the stern while sonar operators tracked the target through static-filled headphones. Below them, hidden in darkness, a Japanese submarine moved carefully through the deep, believing it remained undetected. It didn't know death was already above it. The signal became stronger. Closer. The destroyer accelerated directly toward the contact. The captain waited carefully, calculating speed and distance before finally giving the order. Depth charges rolled into the ocean. Seconds passed. Then the sea exploded. Violent underwater detonations shook the destroyer as massive columns of water erupted into darkness. Sailors held tightly while shockwaves rolled beneath the hull. Then came silence. The crew watched carefully, waiting. Then oil surfaced. Debris followed. Pieces of shattered wood drifted upward. The submarine was gone. The first kill. But the hunt was only beginning. Word spread quickly across the fleet. An American destroyer had started hunting submarines with terrifying efficiency. Convoys requested protection from the ship whenever possible. Sailors whispered stories about exploding submarines and violent nighttime attacks. Meanwhile, Japanese submarine crews heard different rumors. Rumors about a destroyer that never stopped hunting. A destroyer that kept finding them in darkness. A destroyer that attacked without mercy. Storms crashed across the Pacific as the hunts continued. Giant waves slammed into the destroyer while rain reduced visibility almost completely. But even terrible weather could not stop the patrols. Submarines operated best during storms and darkness. So the destroyer hunted during storms and darkness too. The second encounter came suddenly. A convoy transmission stopped in the middle of the night. No warning. No explanation. Only silence. The destroyer changed course immediately. Every sailor understood what had happened. Attack. As the ship raced through rough water, lookout crews searched desperately through rain and mist. Then someone spotted movement ahead. A submarine traveling on the surface before diving again. Searchlights exploded across the ocean. For one frozen second, both crews saw each other clearly through the darkness. Then gunfire erupted. The destroyer opened fire instantly. Shells crashed across the water while explosions erupted around the submarine. Smoke burst upward as the enemy vessel attempted emergency diving procedures. But it disappeared underwater just before another shell landed directly where it had been. Now the real hunt began. Sonar regained contact beneath the surface. The destroyer circled above the submarine like a predator hunting wounded prey. Then the destroyer struck again. Explosions thundered beneath the surface one after another, violent enough to shake the destroyer itself. Then came another sound, a deeper explosion beneath the ocean. Debris surged upward through black water. Another submarine destroyed. Another Japanese crew lost forever beneath the Pacific. But the war was becoming more dangerous. Japanese submarines were adapting too. Soon they began hunting the destroyer itself. The next mission became the deadliest yet. Sonar crews detected multiple contacts beneath the ocean. Not one submarine. Several. The destroyer had entered a coordinated submarine zone. A kill zone. Some officers wanted immediate withdrawal, but the captain refused. Instead, the destroyer pushed deeper into darkness toward the enemy contacts. Straight toward danger. The crew understood the risk completely. One successful torpedo strike could send everyone on board into freezing black water within minutes. Still they advanced. Then came the first warning. Torpedo. A white wake raced through darkness directly toward the ship. The captain reacted instantly. Hard turn. Maximum power. The destroyer leaned violently as the torpedo missed the stern by seconds. The crew barely recovered before another warning came. Second torpedo. Closer this time. The destroyer turned sharply again while the ocean exploded beside the hull, throwing seawater high across the deck. But the destroyer survived. Now the crew was furious. The submarines had tried to kill them. The hunt became personal. Sonar identified the nearest target below. The destroyer accelerated directly toward it while depth charges launched rapidly into the ocean. Explosions ripped violently through the sea. Then came a horrifying sound beneath the water. Metal collapsing inward. The pressure of the deep crushing steel apart. The submarine imploded beneath the Pacific. Another kill. But more contacts still remain nearby. The battle continued through darkness as the destroyer hunted relentlessly from one sonar signal to another. The destroyer kept attacking. Kept surviving. Submarine after submarine disappeared beneath the sea. Oil slicks spread across the Pacific while debris floated silently through rough water. Within less than 2 weeks, 6 Japanese submarines had been destroyed. 6. An unbelievable number during anti-submarine warfare. Even experienced naval officers struggled to believe it. But somewhere beneath those same waters, Japanese submarine crews began feeling something unfamiliar. Fear. Because every sonar ping could now mean death. And somewhere above them, cutting through darkness like a steel predator, one American destroyer continued the hunt. The Pacific did not stay quiet after the first kill. If anything, it became more dangerous. Because now the ocean had a reputation. And so did the destroyer. The nights grew heavier after that first engagement. Even when the sea looked calm, no one on board trusted it anymore. The sonar room became the heart of the ship, a cramped space filled with dim red lighting, constant static, and the tense breathing of operators listening for shapes that could not be seen. Every ping of the sonar felt like a question. Is it there, or is it coming? Then came the second confirmed contact within days. A convoy escort mission had begun under low visibility conditions. The destroyer moved along the perimeter, cutting through cold water while merchant ships followed behind like shadows clinging to survival. Midway through the night, sonar picked it up again. A slow, deliberate signature beneath the waves. Too steady to be debris. Too quiet to be anything else. Contact bearing 320, the sonar operator called out. The captain didn't hesitate. Turn us in. The destroyer shifted course immediately, engines rising as the ship sliced through dark swells. Depth charge crews moved without orders this time. They already knew what was coming. Beneath the surface, a Japanese submarine was preparing its own attack run on the convoy. It never got the chance. The destroyer closed the distance fast. Too fast. Sonar operators refined the target. The signal grew sharper. Closer. Almost directly beneath the ship. Now, the captain said. The stern opened like a wound in steel. Depth charges dropped into the ocean. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sea broke apart. A violent chain of underwater detonations rolled through the darkness, shaking the destroyer so hard that loose equipment slammed across the deck. Men grabbed railings instinctively as the ocean below turned into a collapsing storm of pressure and steel-shattering force. Then silence. That kind of silence that never felt peaceful. Only empty. Minutes passed. Then the surface changed. Oil spread slowly across the water like a stain. Then fragments. Wood. Metal. Air bubbles rising in clusters that should not have been there. Another submarine gone. 2 confirmed kills. But what followed changed everything. Because now the enemy adapted. Japanese submarines stopped attacking randomly. They began coordinating. 3 nights later, the destroyer entered what the crew would later call a dead zone. A stretch of ocean where sonar picked up multiple faint contacts at once. Not one, not two, several. Multiple submarines detected, the sonar officer said, voice tightening. The room went quiet. The captain studied the readings. They were being surrounded, not hunted.
Trapped. Hold course, he said.
A pause. Then louder. I said hold course. The destroyer pushed forward into the unknown. Rain began falling shortly after, heavy, relentless sheets that turned the ocean into a shifting wall of noise. Visibility dropped to almost zero. The ship existed now only through instruments and instinct. Then it came. Torpedo wake. Starboard side. The shout snapped through the ship. The captain reacted instantly. Hard starboard. Full speed. The destroyer leaned violently as the first torpedo cut through the water where it had been seconds earlier. A second warning followed immediately. Another one, closer. The ocean exploded beside the hull. A towering burst of water slammed against the deck, throwing spray across the entire ship. Men staggered but held position. The destroyer survived, barely. But the silence that followed was worse, because now they were inside it. Inside the submarine pack. Sonar confirmed it. 3 contacts. Maybe more. The destroyer was no longer hunting. It was surrounded by hunters. Prepare all depth charges, the captain ordered. No hesitation. No retreat. Only response. The ship accelerated forward, directly toward the nearest contact. The crew worked like a single machine now, loading racks, adjusting fuses, tracking sonar updates shouted every few seconds. Contact tightening. Closing. Directly below us. The destroyer passed over the first submarine, then released everything. Depth charges fell in a tight pattern. The ocean detonated beneath them. But this time, the explosion felt different. Stronger.
Deeper.
As if something massive had broken apart under pressure. 1 contact gone. But 2 remained. The destroyer turned sharply again, chasing the next signal. Rain hammered the deck. Waves slammed the hull. The ship felt less like a machine and more like something alive refusing to die. Second engagement came minutes later. Then the third. Each one ending the same way. Sonar, contact, pursuit, explosion, silence, oil. Again and again. By the end of that night, 2 more submarines were gone. 4 total. And the ocean began to remember the ship. The next convoy escort was the turning point. The destroyer was assigned alone. No backup, no support, just a corridor of ocean and dozens of vulnerable ships behind it. Then, just before dawn, a 5th contact appeared.
Different from the others.
It didn't move immediately. It waited. Watching. Target stationary, sonar reported. The captain narrowed his eyes. That's not hesitation, he said. That's bait. And he was right. A torpedo warning came seconds later. But this time, not from one direction.
From 2.
The ocean erupted in motion. The destroyer twisted violently, evading the first strike, then the second barely missing the stern. Explosions tore through the waves around them, lighting the dark sea in flashes of white and orange chaos. Find them, the captain ordered. Sonar locked in. 1 submarine surfaced briefly, just long enough to reposition. Searchlights caught it instantly. Gunfire erupted across the waves. Then depth charges followed it down. The ocean swallowed it whole. 5 submarines. And still, the hunt continued.